Right. Very sorry for a slight delay. So I'm giving the floor, well, the virtual floor straight to Matt Kurleto, who's the CEO of Neoteric, and I'll let him to tell you what he'll be talking about.
Hi, this is Matt. Nice to have you here. Thank you for the invitation for the Wolf Summit Conference. And before we start, just so we are on the same page, I wanted to share with you the most valuable startup advice or business advice you can take. I will tell you exactly the three only things that you need to succeed in business, and those are capital, talent, and market. And everything when it comes to startup investment, when it comes to doing innovation, is based on those three fundamental things: capital, talent, and market. And they all depend on each other. So today, we're going to talk about the sweet spot for startup investment in Central and Eastern Europe. Um, Myself, I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've created a software development company that hires almost 100 people. We work with global markets. Most of our customers are in the United States, that include World Bank and others. So, my perspective as an entrepreneur is that there are differences between what is happening in Central Europe and what's happening in Western Europe, and uh, you can compare it to the differences between the top US startups and Western European hubs. So the differences are in the size of the rounds, in the moments when the rounds happen, in the requirements for certain rounds. But it's always about capital, talent, and market. So, how does it work together? The important thing is that when it's healthy, the balance between those three, what we have is an ecosystem. It comes from biology. It was really hard for me to learn biology when I was, in high school. But one thing stick to my mind, that when you have the right balance in nature, things are growing just for because they exist. You don't need a gardener to have a beautiful jungle. And this is how startup ecosystems, or in fact, economic ecosystems work. You have talented people that do stuff, you have capital that is on different stages, has different sources, but you need it all with the market from the inception of the idea up to the exit. And no one in Europe has it. That's why we have to cooperate, because we're lagging behind. We're lagging behind, but at the same time, there's a huge opportunity here on the market. Oh, unfortunately, I haven't updated this version of presentation, obviously. So what I wanted to say is that Central Europe has now the market for Revolut, which is one of the most famous fintechs in the world. It took 1 year and a little, 2 years tops, to grow from 30,000 users to more than 900,000 users. Poland has been known very well to be a market to go to test fintech solutions, and it's proven again. There's a huge untapped market of tech talent. And of course, there are top companies like Microsoft, Apple, Google, Facebook, Intel. Every major player has its development team in Poland, and Polish developers rank 3 in HackerRank. So the whole Central Europe has probably the best possible ratio between the quality of the developers and the salary, which gives you tremendous opportunity uh, as to put the part of your business that's related to developing software here in Central Europe, and you have different ways to do that. you can go with a software development partner, you can build your own office, and you can work with freelancers from here. So different options for different people at different stages are here. One thing is for sure, if you want to go for quality versus price for software development talent, Central Europe is the place to go. And one thing that shows you the market potential here is that if you compare the amount of money invested per 1,000 talented software developers in different regions, it shows that in Central Europe, you have 5 times less to even 12 times less developers that are uh, working uh, with the capital invested in startups. So that's a huge talent pool that has never got the resources to show their best in the market. And how do we cope with the situation when the big ecosystems like London, like New York, like Silicon Valley are eating the whole of the world? Well, it's quite simple. We need to cooperate rather than compete with each other. And this is how it's been happening for years, that many small, well-aligned businesses win with the biggest fishes. This is how you build your competitive advantage also. And one last argument to show you that Europe, Central Europe, is the place to go is that uh, we mentioned Revolut. The founders of Revolut are two Russian brothers, and we all know it as a UK startup. And Apple, the first brand that comes to mind when you talk about the United States, uh, it's a company that has been founded by a Polish and Syrian immigrant. And if we want successes in Central Europe, we don't need to do everything on our own. If we want successes in Europe, we don't need to have every part of the ecosystem in our city. We don't need to waste money on trying to put the places, the puzzles that are missing to grow them from the very beginning, because we complement each other. And as a Startup Hansa, we have conducted a research comparing the startup ecosystems in Berlin, in Gdansk, in Amsterdam, in Stockholm, and in Phoenix, Arizona. And what it shows is that at different stages of startup development, with different uh, uh, parts of the business, the different locations are best. So it's not about having a great startup in Stockholm or in Warsaw. It's about having a startup that's spread across the European startup ecosystem and that leverages the advantages of all of them. So it's not about closing ourselves in Central European region and trying to find a Western capital to join us. It's about being a part of a bigger game. So that's a really important thing. And when it comes to finding the right place to invest, I will try a very hard thing. So I will exit the full screen mode and get here to see if you have some comments for me. Please use a chat. I'd love to hear if you have any specific questions that you want me to answer. But before that, I will continue with this presentation. So the important thing is about finding the right spot to invest. And this can be tricky because if you go by the guidelines that are applicable to the Western Europe. For instance, if you go with partner in capital SaaS napkin as a rough guideline to how to invest in different stages, you will be disappointed looking at the companies here in Central Europe. because the numbers are usually much lower. So the revenues are usually lower. It comes because first we don't really have a very strong marketing and sales talent, although that changes right now with experience on international markets. Uh, and the second thing is that our local market is too big to ignore, and it's a good starting point. And you can have a very nice company being a leader in Poland and make a really good money, but still it's too low to become a global leader out of that. So we need to find the right balance between looking at the local market and expanding internationally. And this international expansion is quite hard because we don't have many people that are experienced in marketing and selling to international markets with high-tech products. So how do you know if it's worth to invest? So firstly, you need to understand that the different stages of investment, like the pre-seed, the seed, the series A, B, C, D, E, they have a reason to be. So there are different things that those money are meant for. And on every stage of investment, on every stage of startup development, there are different sweet spots, because you need to get to the moment that you have the market proof, that you have the talent that can get you from the current stage of your market proof to the next stage of your market proof with the investors' money as fast as possible. So it's not about running a marathon in a steady pace. It's about doing sprints. And for those sprints, you need to prepare your organization to the moment where capital is the only thing missing. So if you're still considering who is your user, you cannot go for money that's meant to help you grow in the first niches that you have and show that you have a potential to win markets, not win single customers. And for that, you need to go through the stages of product development, from the idea stage, where you first have to prove that the market for the idea even exists. So you do it by proving there is a problem and that your solution is the good one, that there is a problem and you have a product that people are able to use and get the value out of it. And only then you need to prove that this product wins on the market. And the problem that lots of Central European founders have is that they they don't do it step by step in all of the parts of startup development, from the team building perspective, customer development perspective, market development perspective. What a lot of founders are missing is that you need to check every single field. So you need to prove that the market exists. You need to define your beachhead market. Where will you start? You need to show that you can reach out to this market. You have to prove that you are able to sit down with decision makers, and you need to do it before you ask for the money. Because if the money is needed to develop a product to a further stage, you need to show that there's a number of people just waiting to sign the contract the moment it's there. So you need to get a way of building a prototype, building a mock-up, building a proof of concept, and showing and winning the ways to prove that there's value in your product, so that your end users can test it. And when you build it into the product, then you can find out what are the new perspective for you to get funded. So for the investors, my advice is to look at the alignment between the product development, the market proof, and the talented pool of the founders, because at some stages you will need to push the founders to hire people on foreign markets to expand, especially in sales and marketing, also in consulting, to add some management layer. So be aware of this matrix between the different parts of your startup, different aspects of your startup, and how it's developed on different stages. So the important thing is, for now, in Central Europe, if we're talking about sweet spot, for me, the sweet spot for Western investors is looking for Series A ready investment. So be aware that the valuations are a little different here. Find a local venture capital fund that will be very happy to co-invest with you. And thirdly, be aware that the different aspects of the startup development are not automatically checked if the startup can show significant revenue or significant investment in the products because of the grants that we have available in Central Europe. This way of assessing might be quite biased. Yeah, let.
Wow, now we're moving on to another incredibly interesting panel, and the title of the panel is What Went Wrong? Investors' Fuck-Up Stories and Lessons Learned. I'm tremendously pleased to welcome Paulina Białek yet again. On her panel, there will be Michał Rokosz, who's the partner at Innovo, Maciej Plichta, who's the sourcing and growth manager for CEE, Energy Innovation Hub, and Rodana Stefankova, who is an independent consultant.